A scatter brush, at a very basic level, takes some piece of artwork and distributes it along a path that you create. Let's actually create a scatter brush using these little flip-flop icons, and then see how that might be applied when put onto a brush. So I'll start off first by selecting the artwork as it is right here, go over to my brushes panel, and click on the button over here to create a new brush. Now, I don't want to create a new calligraphic brush, I want to create a new scatter brush, again using the artwork that I currently have selected. So I'll choose New Scatter Brush, click OK, and now I get an option here. So let's call this one Flip Flops. It's always good to name your brushes, otherwise you have no idea what they really are. I'm going to really leave the settings here as they are. Size 100%. That just means that the brush will use the same size of the artwork that I created here. The spacing will be 100%. Scatter will be set to 0%. Rotation to 0 degrees. And again, these are all fixed settings, so they'll always be the same. And we'll also understand what this rotation relative to page is. We'll go through those momentarily, but let's click OK just to see what happens when we apply them. So I have here my flip-flops brush. I'm going to go ahead and select my paintbrush tool here, and I'm simply going to go ahead and, with this selected right here, just draw a line. And you can see right away that as I've drawn that line over there, the artwork that I've created over here has been distributed along the path. However, it's kind of pretty straightforward. Let's now explore some of the settings involved inside of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double-click on this right now to bring up the settings here. We can click on the preview button to see what that's going to look like when we apply that to our particular paths. First of all, we could change the size. For example, I can go ahead and choose maybe 75% or 70% of the size that I created. Now again, that's very uniform, but rather than being a fixed size, I could have that one set to random. So that means that they can have a size of anywhere from 70% to 100%, and I can adjust the sliders to even go higher. So for example, now they can be bigger or smaller. The spacing is set to 100%, but again, I could choose that to be random as well. When you have a random setting, you have two sliders that you could choose. The scatter can also be set to random. And again, I'll go ahead and I'll adjust those as well. And the rotation could also be random. Let's go ahead and do something really kind of kooky there. I can now click on the OK button, and I can apply that to the strokes that I've always created. But now whenever I create a new brush, as I do that, I can see that they no longer are distributed along the path in a simple way, but they're kind of scattered along that particular path. Again, when I go into outline mode, Command Y or Control Y, I see that what I've created with the paintbrush basically is just one path. But along that path, this artwork that I created has been scattered amongst it. I'm just going to press undo to go back to this original one for a second, because I want to show you what it means when I click on this particular option here to double click on this setting right here. Go back to change the brushes setting here. What this rotation relative to page means, if I set my rotation, let's say fixed right now, to let's say be 45 degrees. So right now, my rotation is relative to the page. So right now, all the particular flip-flops right now are rotated on a 45-degree angle, but on a 45-degree angle of the page itself. Whereas if I change it to the path, then you can see that it changes on a 45-degree angle based on the path. So as the path turns and twists, it remains 45 degrees to the path itself. So again, depending on the artwork that you create, you may want to choose relative to the path or to the page. Now it's important to note also that all the settings that I've applied for size, spacing, or scatter can also be based on pressure. Depending on the kind of Wacom tablet that you have, if you have a pen such as the 6D Art Pen, for example, you could actually have the size set on pressure, but the spacing set on bearing or tilt, and the scatter based on rotation, so on and so forth, or of course rotation based on rotation, which would mean that as you go ahead and you move the pen or you tilt the pen, that could adjust the settings of the scatter brush as well. So it's a very powerful brush to use, and the more that you experiment with it, the more uses you'll find for it. But I'll point out that Illustrator comes with a whole bunch of fantastic scatter brushes that you can use or modify. Again, go to the little icon on the bottom over here, choose Decorative, and maybe choose something here called Decorative Scatter. And you'll have lots of options that you can use over here and get some ideas on how you can build your own scatter brushes.